So shall we start again? Thanks,
Totally.
thanks for sparing a lot of time. Where are you now, right now? Because last time when I talked to you, you were like, first you finished your graduation in NIT way back, and
I
then
went to Italy,
you went to,
and
before
I
that
was
you
in
joined
Netherlands.
L&T, right? A couple of
Yeah,
years.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. I was there for 2 years, and then I moved for masters, and then I did a
To
startup, and then
Milan, right?
yes, I was in Milan, and
Then you
then I
moved to
moved to
Germany.
no Netherlands.
Okay, okay.
Uh,
You know that.
I was in Netherlands for a year in Eindhoven.
Okay.
And then I moved to Germany for 2 more years.
Okay.
And then after pandemic in Spain, so just from the pandemic, so 2.5 years.
So what were you
Yeah.
doing in Netherlands then? I didn't know that at all.
Doing a startup there. So I had like a accelerator who invited me to stay there and improve on the startup. So we were working with two companies there, and one was like so we were working on a healthcare startup,
Okay.
and it was we worked with the forgot the actual Dutch name, but it was like the general hospital, like the municipality hospital for the district of Eindhoven. So that's like in the south of Netherlands. So it's a hospital that is run by the government. So we were working with them on a very on a limited basis, of course, like a test run, pilot run of our tech to see if the patients can use it or not. So yeah, we were doing that there, and this company helped us accelerate the
Okay.
startup and the product and the evolution of the idea. So
Okay.
I was there for a year doing that.
So what was that product?
We had patients we wanted to look at. So these patients were asthma patients, COPD patients. So patients, anyone who has problems, like taking in oxygen and breathing it out, and with the environment and the issues they have with the pollution in the air. So it could be, let's say, pollen grains. Even that's
Okay.
kind of pollution.
Yeah.
If you consider asthma patients or COPD patients who have this, like seizures. So our idea was to try understanding the environmental pollutants in neighborhood, try plotting that out in like Google Maps, for instance, and then try telling people that so trying acting like a weather app. So I'm just putting everything together. So
Yeah.
imagine you have an issue and you open Google Maps to see how's the environment around. So if you want to, let's say, go out on a jog early in the morning, it's just opening your application to see, okay, now CO2 level so much, ozone level so much, so methane level. So you see all that, you see if it is okay for you to go out. And not just that, so because of so we are trying to define and develop AI models. So using those models, try predicting how it would be in a couple of hours. So something like a weather app, you open it, you see, okay, in the evening it's gonna rain, and then you take an umbrella with you. Something very similar. So if they see that pollutants are going to increase in that location, they
Okay.
can take their pre-medications, or they can take their they use this I forgot they have like yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
they use that, they can use it early on so that it doesn't get bad or worse
Okay.
after they get impacted, right? So that was the idea. But of course it took a lot of time, and we couldn't see it through, because again, this is a healthcare product, and it's not as easy as doing any other tech solution,
Yeah.
which we
Yeah.
realized after we started doing it. So
Okay.
it was not something we could follow up on, so it did fail. But I mean, it's just another thing that you try out, and if it didn't
Yeah.
work, it didn't work. Yeah.
But you might have learned a lot
Yeah,
in
of course, I
all this
learned how to
whole
talk to
experience.
people. For instance,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we can even talk about that, how I
Yeah.
never spoke to people when I was a kid. So I
Yeah.
think this pushed me to do that. I was like super shy even when I was in Netherlands. But
Mhm.
then after going there, they said, if you want to build this company, you need to talk to people, you need to talk to
Okay.
patients, or else how
Okay.
would you get these data? And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, cool, I'll do it for the work. And then I started forcing myself to learn how to talk to people. I
Cool.
think it served me pretty well later on.
Actually, I had this question now for the fag end of the interview, but you yourself have answered that. It's okay. Now I want to move on to the what do you call Germany episode. What were you doing there then? Like,
So I was already at Fright Waves when I was in
okay.
Germany, and for
Okay.
Fright, so okay, one of the things I had to do at Fright Waves was I was the European correspondent. So I was not just a reporter, but I was also a correspondent in the sense that they would ask me to go and visit different places
Okay.
and talk to companies, cover conferences, be at expos, be at trucking events, be at launching events. So they launch different products, so they want us to cover it. So whoever goes first gets the early bird gets the worm, right? So every journalist wants to be there. You go in line first, try writing up while you're there, and then push it. So that was kind of the life. So I had to travel a lot, and Germany was like the epicenter of most conferences. For instance, the IAA, which is like the world's largest auto conference. Yeah, I used to travel to a lot of places. So they keep exchanging between, and one of the places was Frankfurt. So it's like massive. Every big company in the world has a booth there or has a place there, stand there. So it's insane. So I used to go there. I even saw Angela Merkel there. Like, she was the chancellor of Germany back then. So it's like Germany was like the epicenter, and Netherlands. So you have, and also the UK. So I used to travel to these three countries a lot. And I was in Stuttgart, and this is like the headquarters of Mercedes-Benz, of Daimler, of Porsche. So it's like all the heavyweight companies behind logistics are from there, and Volkswagen is nearby. BMW is just a couple of hours away. I mean, the headquarters of all these companies. So it's like, it's easier for me to connect to them, have sound bites, maintain partnerships, which is very important if you're a journalist. So all this, so Germany was a really good place for you to be if you are traveling, let's say, like 15-20 times a year. And because you have to travel, it's better if you're staying in that country, because it makes it much easier. You could just travel by train, for instance. You don't need to take a flight every time. And after a point, you'll know that it's very weary, right? When you're taking a flight every time, you need to go early, stay, probably the flights at early in the morning or late in the night. So
and it's
cramped. So Germany is perfect for that. Yes, exactly.
So you can work peacefully on a train.
Exactly.
Rather than on a flight.
Totally. Like, here, trains are awesome. Trains are really good. So you have like tables, you can like put your laptop and you can work. No one disturbs you. It's pretty silent. So it's nice.
I've heard about those stories also. From
like the German train.
German thing for silence in public.
It's super evident. Like, it's actually funny. Germans are so silent and expect silence around them, even in restaurants. So you go to restaurants in Germany, it's dead silent. You go to a restaurant in Italy or in Spain, you'll see it sounds like India. They're shouting, they're laughing, they're screaming. No one cares. So it's very different. Like, even in Europe, you see like a huge contrast from Northwest Europe and the south of Europe.
So that's from another question. How did Fright Waves recruit you, or did you apply for the job, or what is the story?
It's a good story again. So I was doing freelancing on the side while I was doing the startup, because so you don't make money out of a startup at the beginning, right? So you probably get investment, but the investment is for the company, not for your own sake. So I was trying to do some freelancing. So that was when I started writing for money. Till then I was doing a lot of poems that, so I was doing like short stories and fiction, but I was never actually writing stuff to make money. So that was when I realized that if I had to sustain myself in Netherlands, it's actually super expensive to stay there. So I figured, okay, if I wanted to have a decent life, then I can't just depend on my own savings, because it was just, so I had some scholarship leftover money from Milan. So I was like, thought of just using that for 6 months, but then 6 months became 8 months, 1 year, 1.5 years. It's like, okay, now I need to do something.
Yeah.
So I decided, okay, let me try doing some freelancing on the side, which is possible these days because of so many different digital mediums.
Okay.
So I was just doing it as a student on the side just for a few hours, trying to check if this would work.
Okay.
And it worked, and it was nice. And I just, like working with different clients, doing freelance travel writing and stuff. And at the end of the day, I was super lucky to get Fright Waves, because I mean, I had already worked with another magazine by then. I was like working for a company. It was not a company, it was a small scale Silicon Valley tech magazine. So I was one of the ground reporters. So I was like, again, talking to people, interviewing CEOs, and writing about that. So I was doing this, but this is not in logistics. This is like plain tech, like proper tech stuff.
Okay.
So I was doing it, but I felt that I could also do something else, right? So I was like random gigs here and there. And then this guy came on one of the mediums on the freelancing platform, and then I was like talking to him. He said, hey, we have we could probably start out doing one story a week and stuff. And then I started out that way. He really liked what I wrote. He asked if we could do interviews. I said, yeah, bring it on. And then we started doing that. And then in like a month or so, he said, hey, if you want, you can join full time. So it was more like, it was not full time again, not like you doing full time, because it's still freelance contract. But then at the end of the day, you're working pretty much full time in terms of hours,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you. And what happened to that structural engineering? You studied.
Yeah, it's I don't know what happened.
All those hours of thousands of hours of grueling work, study, preparing for JEE, and doing a 4-year graduation course at NIT, and then 2 years, I think, at Milan. Do you consider them as a waste of time, energy, and money, or do you put those skills into use? And how far is it advisable to get into different track like this, or is it better for the youngsters to choose listen to their heart and choose the right course when they are young, when they step into the university or college life? So what do you think? What is your perception on that?
That's a very good question. So I would say that right off the bat, I wouldn't say that the number of hours or the years I spend doing all these things I've done over the years as waste or anything of that sort. I think it's all stepping stones to somewhere, because if I didn't do that, I probably wouldn't be where I am right now. So it all happened for a reason. And I think that there are so many things that you learn along the way, which is not exactly within your curriculum or your academic training, which you still use and you probably would use throughout your life. For instance, like I said, with the startup, even though the startup didn't work out, a lot of skills that I learned through the startup, a lot of connections I made through the startup kind of helped me over the years. Like probably it's not helping me every day, but there's certain things that you pick from your own life, like cherry pick the important stuff. And that's one of the things. I think like connection is something that I got from NIT Trichy for sure. Most of my friends are in great positions around the world. They do incredible stuff. So I'm also obviously motivated seeing what other people do, right? So I see my own classmates performing really well. So it puts me in a nice situation. I look at it in a nice way that, if they could do it, if I was their friend and I was equally talented, probably I could do the same thing too. It's something like what Nadal says about Federer. When Federer retired, he said, a part of me just left. That was because he was pushed to that level because of Federer. And I think the vice versa, and also the same with Djokovic, right? So it's like you have someone who's pushing you, and it makes you better and it makes them better. So I would say I always look at this in a nice way that you are learning stuff which is completely out of the box. You're building camaraderie, you're building relationships, you're building friendships for life, you're building connections that can come back to you later on. So I've had connections from university, from friend of friend or senior from university who's introduced me to big companies here, who've become my clients eventually, right now. So it's been 10-12 years since I finished it, but I still have those connections, and connections take you a long way in this world right now, at least, like in a world where everything runs on connections. At least I believe that, of course you need a lot of skill sets and stuff, which is obvious, it's important. But apart from that, a lot of things that a lot of the times people forget is that connections are super important, and that if you cultivate good connections, they're gonna help you in the future. So for me, answering your question, I don't think it's a waste of time. I think I gained a lot of things which, again, like I said, were not the things I was looking forward to when I was doing that. But then when I look at it in a retrospective way, I see that I've actually gained stuff. And if you ask me if I go back in time, if I can turn the clock, and probably if I do it again, I would say I would do it again, because it gave me a lot of things that I wouldn't want to miss again. So
Wonderful, wonderful, Vishnu. And you mentioned in your write-up when you introduced yourself to our group members that engineering gave you very strong analytical skills, and it helps you to become to write your articles, to tell your stories in a better way. Can you explain it further, or elaborate it a little bit with a specific example? It would be nice for me to understand, and for the viewers also.
okay, sure. But I actually didn't have any specific thing in mind when I said that. It's
Okay.
because it truly really helps the analytical skills, because I'm not a normal like a journalist, let's say on the Hindu or the News Minute or NDTV or something. I'm a trade journalist, so I get to work with a lot of data. Like every day, my stories and my articles and my op-eds, everything involves a lot of data. So I need to understand different metrics. I need to understand where the economy is heading. I need to understand different parameters which come together for logistics and supply chain. So in my field, it's not just about writing, it's not just about understanding the industry, but it's also trying to understand the different numbers that come with the industry. So for me, since I have this analytical backup, like my skills, my fundamental skills are analytical in nature, it's easier for me to like get these connections inside my head. It's like, because I've been doing that for so many years. Again, that comes back to my answer for the previous question, where I said, I would never lose this experience for
Yeah.
anything, because that gave me the skills which I am using on a daily basis, probably not for engineering, but to decipher different data, different graphs, to create information that's kind of palatable for everyone. Like, let's say I'm writing something, I'm taking like really hardcore industry stuff, and writing it in a way that my mom can understand, for instance. So that's
Yeah,
the idea.
that's, any writer should do that, I think. It's making things simply in a simpler, and even a layman can understand. That's when a writer can call himself or herself a great writer. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, totally.
complicated stuff should be simplified. Okay, I'm happy that you're doing it, because I never understood your poetry. I'm it's so difficult to because the vocabulary that you use, uh, I don't know still you're writing poetry or not, but the vocabulary you used to use there in your poetry is so tough and difficult. I have to go to the dictionary for the every fourth word, and they were also very dark.
Yeah,
uh,
very dark.
why, Vishnu? Why such darkness? And you were again. I'd like to combine another question also. Like, the Vishnu that I knew was always a recluse, an introvert who wouldn't mingle with other people that easily. But now I can see a very jovial person who is super cool. You have rightly pointed out that the startup helped you to break out that shell. Was that a strength or was that a challenge for you being an introvert? Did it help you to learn a lot of things and save your energy and time and groom yourself, or was it a problem? Did you see that as a challenge? Did you suffer because of an introvert? I know the answer because I've read about that on Quora, but still I wanted you to speak on your own again for the audience sake.
Okay. I think this is again a perspective that will keep changing as you uncover more about yourself, right? So I think I've been lucky, I would say, to keep thinking about where I've come from and where I am heading, and I always have that focus. I would say that a lot of people probably, I wouldn't say don't have, it's just that they haven't cultivated, I would put it that way. So for me, I would say, like, when I was an introvert, I still used to think a lot. It's just that I wouldn't talk aloud, but I would still be thinking about everything that happens around me and questioning things, and trying to find answers probably on my own, but not trying to talk with people. That was the only big difference. But character wise, yes, I've changed quite a lot in terms of communication. But that change, the linchpin was basically the startup. Like, if someone didn't force me to do it, I wouldn't have done it, to be really honest.
Okay.
But then, answering your question, if I felt bad when I was an introvert, yes, I would say to an extent it would feel bad to be left out of a conversation. But then you realize you're also kind of okay being on your own, because it gives you a very safe space where you control what you're going to feel or where you are in that situation. And also, growing up as a single kid might have actually been in my favor here, because I didn't actually need people to keep me interested in my daily life. I had my books. I had things I was thinking about all the time. I was writing a lot when I was in university. So, and of course, he had a lot of coursework to finish, so it was not like I was Lena sitting down and thinking, maybe I should talk to people. I never had that kind of an epiphany, like, so I think I have mixed feelings of the days when I felt I was like really a closet introvert at heart. But then you're right in a way that I've actually, when I came out of university, when I started doing what I'm doing right now, I used to have a tinge of regret that probably if I had spoken out a little bit more, I could have made more connections in university. So I had so many talented people around me that I think I missed out on connecting with many of them that I really wanted to connect with. Though, yeah, since we are connected over different mediums now on social media, it's obviously easier for us to get back and get together. But at the end of the day, you've missed the times that you were actually together, staying in the same dorm rooms, and going out together. So for instance, they, like, every year, or rather the final years in my university, they used to go on a big trip at the end of the year. So I actually missed that. I think in our year they went to Goa. Till date, I haven't been to Goa. It's funny, I've never been to Goa, and people are like, really, you've never been to Goa? It's like, yeah, I've never been to Goa. So it's like this trip that many friends plan and never actually execute, right? It's the same, but my friends did it, I didn't do it. So I was like, I'm not the time. I think I was also preparing, or rather, uh, I think I was like applying for my master's. Like, back then, I was applying to the US, not to Europe. And then I was also giving interviews, I think, for, yeah, that was the time when I went to, I bagged an offer through L&T. But yeah, situation somehow just made me that I just said no. And now I kind of think about it. I don't remember anything about that situation, but I remember that I didn't go, and this is some kind of a regret that I had, but that eventually ended up me saying yes to pretty much all kinds of travel and stuff. So I've been to 25 countries.
Wonderful.
So I wanted to do like 30 in 30. That was kind
Okay,
of the goal
okay,
when I started
nice.
at 23. But I've turned 30, but I've done 25. But I
Okay,
think I've done good enough, I would say, and I still would like to travel more. But that was the point. So there's a turning point, and I realized that I should probably never say no to such traveling episodes. And I actually traveled a lot solo also
yeah.
as a student, and yeah, so it's been fun. Like I think I learned from being an introvert, and I learned like many valuable lessons of, through regret or through choices. But eventually it turned out to be better because, like I said, I've applied those, and I just make sure that I don't do the same mistake again.
Cool, Vishnu. It was an entirely different kind of answer. The one that you wrote on Quora. Now it
I
is.
don't remember
Yeah,
what I wrote on
I
Quora.
remember. You were justifying being a
Introvert,
you
maybe
were
because I
defending.
was
Yeah,
an introvert.
yeah. You were defending yourself very strongly. But now the perspective has changed a lot. I could see the difference. I could see what you mean by the growth and how you broke out of the shell. I'm happy for that. And now comes the most important question. How challenging was that meeting people initially? What were your biggest worries and fears? How did you shake, and how did you overcome? And how long it took, and how much effort it took? It demanded for you to break out of this shell and then becoming a very nice, talkative, chatty young man.
Um, I think it was very difficult. At the start, I used to sweat a lot. Like my palms used to be so sweaty every time I wanted to talk to someone. It was not because I couldn't talk. It was not like I couldn't speak English. That was never a problem. It's just that I couldn't approach someone who I never knew before. And I distinctly remember, even when I was a kid, like when there was the phone ringing in my house, I would never pick it. I would be like, "Mom, there's a phone." Like, talk, even if it's someone I know, I still wouldn't want to pick up the call because I always had that inhibition to talk to people
Yeah,
and pick up the phone. That was the inhibition. It's not about talking to people, it's more about those first few seconds of how do you approach that person.
yeah.
So I'd say that was the biggest deterrent for a long time, like for several years in my life. And then like I said, when they forced me, it was very funny because I had to go to this hospital, and it was not like an easy way out. You're not going to a bar to strike up a conversation with people who are already talking and having fun. This is the hospital. People are having ailments. They are not there to converse with you. And
True.
especially with you, a brown person in a place where they don't see brown people, and
Yeah,
they obviously know that you're not from there, you don't speak Dutch, so you're going to speak in a foreign language
yeah.
in a lung segment in a super specialty hospital. You're just walking in, and the thing that they told me is never go to the front desk and ask this because they're not going to allow you inside. I'm like, oh, so they're not going to allow me, what I'm doing is not right, and you still want me to go and talk to them? They said, yeah, because there's no other way you can talk to these lung patients. And then it was quite a bit of time before I realized that this is really hard stuff to do. And then I had to do it, but in the first week I probably approached like 2 3 people.
Okay.
It's funny now, but then imagine sitting in a hospital 6 hours a day and then not talking to anyone, coming back home because you have this inhibition to talk
Yeah.
to people. They're there, they're sitting next to you, you want to talk, but you don't, because you feel so bad inside just to say hello, and yeah, so it was, to answer your question, it was really hard. It took me a long time to open up, to think that the other person wouldn't consider me stupid just to say hello or to ask them questions. And when I realized that it was just like 10 15 seconds of your time where you're gonna feel awkward when you approach someone, it just melted away after a point. And then once I again, like I said, with doing interviews, I had the same problem. Like when I started doing this, I had zero idea. Like I said, I've never had a journalism course,
Yeah.
forget let alone doing a degree in journalism. So I had no idea of how to conduct interviews. I was just reading it on online, seeing how people did it on YouTube, for instance. So it was just watch and learn, and then getting help from my own people at Frightwaves, for instance. Once we started growing, we did have like people who are like much more wiser and much more experienced than I could ever be, probably. So they were helping. They were super accommodative. They didn't think of me as someone who works with them but probably doesn't have the same skill set, but they rather saw me as a person who was willing to learn and trying to improve. So it's like putting in a lot of hours and, trying to implement the stuff, the little nuggets of wisdom that they give about, how to conduct interviews. Like, that's obviously one facet of talking to people. Of course, I had to go to conferences and talk to people, but everywhere I had help, or I was seeing someone and learning from that. But like you have mentioned before, it's the same for me in the sense that I don't really get scared of making mistakes anymore. So I'm much more happier to just experiment, see if things work. If they don't, it's okay, but I did try, right? So that's the kind of mentality I have right now, and probably that also helped me to shed this idea of being an introvert and trying to defend being an introvert, and to kind of open up and try talking to people. Yeah.
So thanks for expressing all these what do you call actually how do I put it, uncomfortable area. But still you opened out and expressed everything. Thanks for that. Just one more question that I wanted to ask before winding up this session. Probably I would be asking you to join me for another kind of interview on the same platform, because there is so much more we have to speak about. Uh, uh, you didn't answer the question, the first question. That's why your poetry is so dark.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's another, yeah, true.
yeah.
I would say right from the start, I was very interested in Neuer, like the kind of stories that had a very sad ending. Why? Because I think it had more impact. That was pretty much my logic. So I think a sad story, let's say even at Shakespeare, what are the stories that we immediately think of? We think of King Lear, Othello, we think of Romeo, Juliet, I mean, all Macbeth, all of them, like the great tragedies,
Antony
right?
and
Like,
Cleopatra. So
exactly.
all
So
the
pretty much
tragedies.
all of these have some kind of like real sadness in them, and these characters stick to you. And growing up, like grandpa, like him, like doing all the Shakespeare stuff, and I was like in my fifth grade, sixth grade, him just talking about it. And so I had this kind of a childhood growing up where I was reading a lot of stories that had a sad ending, and it somehow struck me inside that these are characters that are strong. Maybe if they had a happy ending, I wouldn't be that impacted because of the character, right? Even in a movie, if you see the protagonist or the heroine die, you feel bad,
Yeah,
even if the movie is bad, like it's badly made,
yeah,
you still feel something, right?
yeah, yeah.
So probably that's where it started, but then I realized that I could experiment within this genre, that I started writing a lot of different kinds of poetry. I remember, like, there was this phase in my life where I was doing a lot of neo-noir poetry, but the ending was very circular. So it was like it started somewhere, it went around, and then it came back to the same point. It was like I was trying to write some kind of like recursive poetry, like I was trying experimenting with different styles. And for me, it was much easier, also because I was trained to, writing more of noir stuff. It was easier for me to experiment in that genre. It's not like I couldn't write happy stuff. I think I've written a few.
Okay.
And even my
I've
style
read a
of
couple of them. I remember them, and you were good in that also. I suggested that Vishnu, I would
I
like to see
remember,
more
yeah.
of that. Yeah, it's like because I like to see happy ending movies, and even if it is a masala, it's like entertainment. I really, if it is a tragedy, then I would never watch it for the second time. But if it is a comedy,
Yeah,
a
that's
romantic comedy, then I would watch it again and again and again. Action, yes, of course, but tragedy, oh no, it's
that
so
is actually
strong.
true. It's the
Yeah.
same for me. I
Okay.
would say because you're right. Like if I'm watching, let's say, sitcoms, I'm watching a lot of sitcoms again and again, many reruns, but I'm never gonna watch even Game of Thrones. I don't watch it again and again. I really like Game of Thrones, but I don't watch it again and again.
Okay, I don't want to finish this with a happy, sorry, dark note. So, how about your party life? Do you enjoy? Do you crack jokes? Do you have fun? Do you have mischiefs in your life?
Yeah, I think
Because you sound a very serious person. Probably every one of our relatives think that you're a very serious person. But is there another side to Vishnu?
Yeah, I think I don't party. I never party. I don't like it, to be honest. It's not like I didn't have the chance. I don't appreciate it. That's it. I have friends who do it. It's not like I don't like it. I don't have anything against it, but I'm not the person who goes in the night and parties, because I would rather sleep in the night,
Okay.
So, but then I go out a lot. So I have a lot of friends. I'm going out a lot. We usually go to eat. We go to like new places all the time, travel a lot just to, try eating different kinds of cuisines and stuff. But mostly I eat seafood, but different kinds of seafood. So that's like my deal. But then I also do, on a weekly basis, I train a lot. So I do calisthenics.
Okay. What is that?
Calisthenics is more like, it's a form of workout, which is not, you don't go to the gym to do this, but this is functional strength training. So it means that, so my training right now, I'm halfway to an extent there, is to do the flag, like the human flag, like your body up on, so something like that. So you have like incredibly good different functional movements in your body that you can, shape shift to do all that kind of thing. So I do calisthenics. I've been training to more than 2 years now. And I do a lot of kayaking every year. So last year we did like 200 kilometers of kayaking. So we do like 10 days, 20 days of, camping, going, camping. Going.
So it's pure kayaking
the whole day. So we do like 20-25 kilometers a day, and we do it for 10 days. So and then we camp. We take our camp kit and we keep traveling. So we do that once or 2 times a year. And then I do rock climbing. And then I do not rock climbing, like I do rock climbing outside, but not often. But these days I'm more frequently doing bouldering, which is like indoor climbing. So I do that. I swim every chance I get. I go swimming. And then so this is the kind of stuff I do.
You swim in open waters or in
I'm very comfortable in the sea.
So it's like a picture perfect life. It's like
no terms of activity.
No vices, full of virtues and strengths and positive energy. Thanks, Vishnu. It's a very good message, a very strong message to the youngsters that you're showing out, because you don't waste your energy on partying and spending your time wasting away, throwing away your what do you call invaluable time on mundane stuff. On mundane stuff. It's like you are using it to build your life slowly, and you're a budding writer, and I wish you every success in the world, and I'd like to see that you win a Pulitzer one day and go on winning more and more accolades. Thanks for joining me, Vishnu, and it's a wonderful, wonderful time. After a long time, we have spoken for such a long time. Thank you. I learned a lot from you, and I hope this interview inspires a lot of people, and I take lessons from you, and I'd like to do a lot more interviews like this, if not thousands in a year, but at least a few tens and twenties. Let's see.
It's been really nice talking to you. I think it's been so many years since I saw you and speaking to you. For me, like I was saying, that I've not done this kind of conversations before. I've had different interviews where, of course, I've done it and people have asked me questions, but it's always been in this, capacity of being a journalist and not as a person, like having more personal conversations. I think it's super nice. And I think your whole attempt of creating this into a series, it sounds really wonderful, talking of ordinary people with extraordinary stories, right? That was your idea. So I think it's a really nice thing. And it's I would, it's like a fireside chat. Like, this is how they call it, like, in a very nice way. They say it's a fireside chat between two people who are talking about, personal things and, like, informal way. So yeah, it's been a great experience talking to you. I think we have, like you said, a lot more to catch up on. Maybe some other day we do another such conversation, and yeah, I'd be up for it for sure. So yeah, thank you so much for hosting me. It's been wonderful.